Welcome back, everybody. This time for another Sooner Scoop podcast. I'm joined by Joe Duvall and Eddie Radosevich for another exciting episode of the podcast that has yet to be named. I think we're thinking of some things, but we're not going to throw anything out there. We don't want to get the fervor started. People trying to name the show and get it all confused. But guys, this is kind of our post-draft broadcast that we put together here. Going to talk a little bit about everything that went on in the NFL draft, the guys that were taken, some of the free agent signings, the drama with Eric Stryker. There's some football stuff to talk about as well. The first game with Houston's getting a little bit of excitement around it based on some comments coming out of Houston. There's also some basketball stuff to talk about. Joe, of course, covers a lot of our basketball stuff for us, and Eddie too, but suspension on the basketball team for us to talk about. But guys, I guess we'll start things off with the first Sooner that was taken in the draft, and that was one Sterling Shepard, who is now a member of the New York Giants.
It's been great. I mean, got to speak to Odell and Victor a little bit. Saw them whenever they walked past, and then spoke to Eli a little bit. So excited to be here, and they're just telling me to get in the playbook pretty much. The Giants fans, big plays. I mean, that's what I say to everybody. Big plays coming, and I can't wait to get the season started.
And guys, they were able to have some press conferences. And of course, you get drafted that high, and they have press conferences for you individually. And I want to jump to some audio real quick here. One of the clips that we have is the New York Giants head coach, Ben McAdoo, talking about Sterling Shepard and what he sees from him bringing to the organization.
Got a great pick tonight, Sterling Shepard, tremendous young man, high character, plays the game the right way, plays the game the way it should be played. Feisty player, can separate both inside and outside, strong hands, he'll block you. And we're fortunate to have him. Fortunate he was on the board where he was.
Also, the Vice President of Player Evaluation, Mark Ross, talked a little bit about Sterling in his press conference as well.
Some guy named Odell Beckham just tweeted he stole one. Do you see him augmenting, really helping a guy like Odell really reach maybe a certain other level?
I hope so. You get the more playmakers you have around, a guy like Odell. So you want to double Odell? Okay, this guy's gonna kill you. Vic's healthy. That's a nice scenario for us.
All right, so guys, Eddie, we'll start with you. Sterling Shepard, no surprise, the first guy taken in the draft. Thought maybe Tapper might sneak in there, but it couldn't probably be a better position for Sterling Shepard.
No, he turned out to fall right into a perfect situation for him, and especially with the veteran guys around him and Victor Cruz, ODB, or Odell Beckham. It's going to be really interesting to see. I think Matthew Berry from ESPN already has him at number 2 in the wide receiver rookie fantasy ranking. Yeah. He's going to be a guy that I think plays a lot. He's going to be a guy that is on a good team, a good franchise. I guess it's a little interesting just in that he's not going to be playing for Tom Coughlin. He's going to have to, I guess, kind of usher in the McAdoo era with a new head coach. But I think it turns out to be a really good situation for Sterling. And, just on a personal note, having watched Sterling from the time he was I was at his first game as a junior, his junior year at Heritage Hall. And he ran back the opening kickoff. And then for him to come to Oklahoma and did what he did the last 4 years was really, really impressive. He's been so good. I think the one thing that you find out about Sterling is just how competitive he is, and I think it was one of their I forget if it was their GM or director of football ops that said if you want to learn anything about Sterling Shepard, just turn on the second half of the Tennessee game last year.
Yeah, it was Mark Ross that said that. Actually had that clip, and maybe I can pull that up here, but. It's really cool too, Eddie, because like you said, you covered him from the very beginning. And you think about how strange it is. He is now in the NFL, and he's in the NFL, and you have Barry Sanders, who was his teammate, was a year older, right? Or were they the same age?
They were the same class.
That's right. But he was hurt that one year, so it made it look like he wasn't there. But I mean, same class now. He's transferring, starting his career over at Oklahoma State, and now Sterling's moved on to the New York Giants.
Yeah, it's really wild. I remember meeting up with a couple of the Heritage Hall coaches when we were down in San Antonio for the U.S. Army All-American game. They had just been in Orlando with Sterling when he won the was it the skills competition at the Under Armour game?
At the Under Armour games, yeah.
And they had just flown in from San Antonio, and we were sitting around and kind of wondering how he was going to fit into the Oklahoma offense. Was he going to be able to play, or was he going to be an immediate guy? And I think that at the time that we all kind of thought that he would. I definitely. They might have thought he was going to do more than I did. I didn't really know how he was going to fit in after watching him just dominate 3A football for the Chargers. But it's a great situation. I don't think that it could have happened to a better person either. I think that what you see is kind of what you get with Sterling. He is one of the better dudes to come through Norman.
Yeah, and if you remember that recruitment, Barry Sanders Jr. was considered the more highly rated prospect coming out of Heritage Hall throughout that recruitment. I mean, Sterling was highly ranked. He was in the Rivals 250, but Barry Sanders Jr. was seen as the jewel. When ESPN came through town and did televise one of their games,
I remember that.
They hyped up Barry Sanders Jr. He was the guy. And then if you remember watching that game, I think it was Luganbill was on the call, and he said, man, that Sterling Shepard kid, he would keep making plays, and that Shepard kid. And I think by the end of the game, Luganbill had realized, oh no, that's the star of this team. And I think Shepard now has proven to be the guy to come out of there that is the best NFL prospect, best college player. And now that he is in the NFL, you have to love that situation with Ben McAdoo, who was the offensive coordinator in New York before taking over. And that's kind of why they made that hire. If you remember, Tampa Bay did something similar with Dirk Cutter. It's the new trend to get these QB gurus, keep them there. And so that's a great situation for Sterling to have an offensive-minded coach who has had Eli Manning throwing for 4,400 yards the last 2 years. He had his highest QB rating last year, and he has ODB on the other side now, Sterling Shepard does, to take double teams. It can't really get any better than that. And they lost their number 2 receiver last year, Reuben Randall, to the Eagles. So, I mean, what more can you ask for Sterling Shepard?
Yeah, it's a great position, and having Eli Manning, I mean, that's immeasurable in terms of how big that is for a receiver. I mean, think if you're going to Denver and you're a receiver right now, and you're messing with rookies or
Paxton Lynch
or possibly sucky quarterbacks like Sanchez. So it's a great situation. Now, second player drafted, Charles Tapper. Really, no surprise there. I was kind of like, well, maybe somebody pulls something out and throws a Devontae Bond, and maybe some team maybe fell in love with him. But Charles Tapper ended up being the second player taken on the day, and he got the call from Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys to tell him that he was going to be a part of going to wear the star.
Hey, Charles. Jerry Jones with the Cowboys.
How you doing?
You're not going to have to come too far south to leave that Norman, are you?
No, sir.
We're glad to have you. We're drafting you.
I'm definitely glad to be a Cowboy.
All right, buddy. Well, what I'm excited about is that you're going to get some great coaching. You got your great defensive coordinator, great head coach here, so we're excited for you.
Yes, sir.
Come in here. You've had a great career, and no reason for you not to extend it and get better when you get up here. We're proud of you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. That's all I needed, Coach.
Now, if you thought that was kind of awkward, like it's just going to be awkward. I mean, Jerry's just kind of. I think the Cowboys think that's cute to release those.
I was getting ready to say, are they the only team in the NFL that releases their owner talking to the player on the phone?
All of those are so awkward.
Let's make some dreams come true.
None of those are.
Listening and asking for his glory hole.
You have these like owners and coaches, and they're trying to sell their team and stuff, and these kids are surrounded by chaos. Those conversations couldn't be more. I don't know what to get out of those.
Well, let's embrace the awkwardness, because
that's true.
Here's Jason Garrett talking to Charles Tapper.
You bet. Here's our head coach, Jason Garrett.
Charles. Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Hey, we're really excited to have you.
I definitely can't wait to be a Cowboy. Can't wait to get down and start this journey.
Good. You ready to get to work?
Yes, sir. It's definitely going to be worth it. I promise you that.
Good. Leon Letts had a great workout with you. Can't tell you how pumped we are to have you on our football team.
I'm extremely pumped to be on the football team, sir.
Great.
Did he ask him if he was ready to get to work? Did he ask him if he was ready to get to work? What is he supposed to say?
Well, you know.
Nah, I'll be all right.
It's a good thing they don't let like Bob Stoops release those like when a kid
After they get
commits to
commits?
them. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
It would be just as awkward.
Exactly.
Texas tried doing that a while back. I think when the Longhorn Network first started.
Oh, like they were televising when a kid would commit, or they were with them when a kid would commit?
Didn't Rollerson do something?
Yes, Rollerson did do that.
I remember that. He was like in his coach's office, wasn't he, at Salina?
Yeah,
exactly.
But of course, Matt could pull that off. So
I wonder if they televised when Rollerson announced that he's going to UCLA to finish his career.
No, they didn't. But anyway, Charles Tapper, Cowboys need defensive help. It's a good move there. They're probably not going to re-sign, or they've said they're not going to re-sign Greg Hardy. I think the only thing for Tapper is just what's he going to weigh? You know, what's his weight going to be? Obviously, I guess they're going to start Friday in their mini camp, which is today. So he'll be down in Dallas. But Joe, I think it's a good move for Charles Tapper.
Yeah, in my pre-draft article I did where I put out a best case, kind of worst case scenario for each guy, Tapper, his best case scenario I had as the Dallas Cowboys going into the draft. They needed defensive end help, especially when it looked like, and it's continuing to look even more like, Greg Hardy is not coming back there. They have DeMarcus Lawrence on one side, who's only 24 years old. He had 8 sacks last year. So you have Tapper, who comes in, 22, 23 years old. You have a really young nucleus right there of 2 young pass rushers that are very athletic. And I think in the 4th round, Jerry Jones, that gamble probably looked good. You know, Tapper's 270 plus pounds. He ran a 4.59, a 4.5 freaking 9 at defensive end, 270 plus pounds. So in the 4th round to the Cowboys with the defensive end spot open across from DeMarcus Lawrence. OU fans got to love that, even if you're not a Cowboy fan.
I almost fell out of my seat when I saw Bill Jones, CBS 11 out of Dallas, said that, or he tweeted about this past week that Stephen Jones told Sirius XM NFL that Charles Tapper could be a starter by the first game of the year when the Cowboys open the season, and that just it kind of surprises me, kind of just in that the rise that he made, kind of what we talked about in the last podcast last week was how that Tapper is really he kind of had a Jekyll and Hyde career. He was really, really good at times, and at other times he disappeared. So
I think the thing that helps him more than anything is he spent a year with Dyron Reynolds.
Yeah.
So he's going to be a guy that understands that NFL way of coaching, and I think there was so much talk about he's not a high energy guy and he's not a motivator. He's not like Jackie Shipp was, where he gets in your face and stuff, but Charles Tapper responded really well to that type of coaching. So for me, that bodes really well for what his future can be playing for NFL coaches.
Yeah, and to Eddie's point, he did have these kind of lapses. I mean, basically his entire junior year was a lapse. And then even coming into his senior year, he started out, the first 5-6 games of the year, he didn't have a single sack. But then he had the stretch against Kansas, Iowa State, where he had 5 sacks in those 2 games alone, and that's he had 7 all year. So he has these moments where you see that ability flash through, and you feel like, okay, yeah, here's a guy that's going to be scary in the NFL, and then you kind of wonder where is he other times, right, Eddie?
Well, and I think I probably have forgotten a lot when we even talked to Tapper is the fact that how long's he been playing football now? It's only been 7-8 years, I guess.
Or how long has he really cared about playing football?
Yeah, and really got good coaching insight and what to do and technical wise and things. I mean, he's still a very young player.
It was his junior year when he started playing because he was wanting to be a basketball player.
He showed up at a Rivals camp, right, just as a basketball player and just was pretty dominant, I think is what happened. And then they said, I think he was a junior at the time. And then now you look at, I can't imagine not playing a sport for the first 15, 16 years of your life. And then, 5 years later, you're professional. That's just amazing.
Well, one of the guys that left early that I think a lot of people expected to happen, and it did happen, was Zach Sanchez. He goes off the board. I can't even remember what guys.
Fifth round.
First pick of the 5th round.
First pick of the 5th round.
To the Panthers.
He was the 141st pick overall. My brain's not working already.
It's Friday.
141st pick overall to the Panthers. Good news Well, here we go. Here's let's just give you a little taste, take you back to the other day when Zach Sanchez became a part of the NFL.
This is Mike Rucker, former Pro Bowl defensive end. With the 41st pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Zach Sanchez, DB, Oklahoma.
And you know, guys, that was not the first cornerback. Of course, we all know that they're trying to replace Josh Norman in the secondary, but the Carolina Panthers had already taken 2 other cornerbacks in the draft before they took Zach Sanchez, so he's really going to compete for a job when he goes to Carolina, Eddie.
Yeah, and if you want a guy that can make some plays during training camp, that can really put himself into position to start, I would think Zach Sanchez would be the guy. But on the flip side, if you want a guy that could really hurt himself during preseason training camp and get beat a lot, it could probably also be Zach Sanchez. I mean, he might be the most interesting guy out of this whole group. I think Shepard is in a really good spot. Tapper, obviously, in a really good spot. But as you said, I mean, Sanchez is going to be going into a franchise that has a lot of depth, or I guess unproven talent that he'll need to play with. And I think that he does go into a good situation, though. I think the good thing with all the guys that were drafted by Oklahoma guys that were drafted was the fact that they all went to pretty good franchises. They didn't go into any black holes like the Los Angeles Rams, aka the St. Louis Rams, or anybody like that.
Well, and Joe, you look at who was drafted. James Bradbury was their second round pick, 31st pick in the second round, 62nd overall. He's a cornerback, a really good guy, but he's from Samford. So some possible developmental issues there. Darryl Worley from West Virginia. You know that's going to piss Zach Sanchez off that somebody else from the Big 12 got drafted above him. So, I mean, it's not impossible to think that he could end up being the best cornerback when the season starts next year.
And you can almost see the Panthers' strategy from afar, right? Okay, well, we lost Josh Norman. We have these picks in the middle round, 2nd, 3rd, 5th. Let's just see if we hit on one. Let's get a bundle of guys, have them come in.
It's kind of the Minnesota Timberwolves guard strategy from a few years ago.
You draft Ricky Rubio, you draft Ty Lawson, you draft Johnny Flynn from Syracuse, and
who's going to be the John Flynn of this group?
That's exactly right. Zach Sanchez does not want to be Johnny Flynn, and you know what? I think he has a great opportunity there because they play a lot of zone. Zach Sanchez will do well in zone facing the quarterback, and he can play in nickel packages, and that's something where a rookie who's drafted not in the first couple rounds can really make an impact is in nickel and dime packages, and Zach Sanchez can do that. So the Panthers, I think this is a running trend so far. Like Eddie said, that's another good situation for an OU guy to go into, and this doesn't always happen. I feel like sometimes you get a draft pick and you just can see a mile away that it's not going to work out, and these first 3 guys we've talked about, you can see potential for all 3 to work out where they're at.
Well, I think for Zach, the most impressive thing was what he did building strength leading up to the draft. And yeah, it's going to be an issue with him, though. Size, shoulders, tackling. We've seen enough of Zach Sanchez. We've seen 4 years of Zach Sanchez. I mean, we know what to expect, or 3 years. He'd been there for 4. He's going to have to prove himself first and foremost that he's strong enough to play that position. I don't know if that means he can beef up a little bit more now that he's run his 40 and all that stuff, but the things that dogged him are the things that now really get exposed at this next level.
What did he end up doing the bench at? It was the second highest at the combine, wasn't it?
It was more than Neela Casatati.
I remember.
I think it was double Neela Casatati.
It was in the 20s.
I want to say 23 or something. It was either the number 1 cornerback or the number 2.
Maybe, yeah.
It might have been the number 1.
19 bench reps.
19.
Which
that's 18 more than I could probably do.
Yeah, and I think Neela did, 12?
Neela did 12 or 14. I can't remember. It wasn't good.
That's just so bad.
All right, well, the other guy drafted Devontae Bond, and I gave Dusty Dvorak a lot of credit on this. He was the guy back even the spring before his senior year, first guy to tell me, hey, keep an eye on Devontae Bond. I think he's a draftable guy. I think he's a guy that might be one of the best players on this team. You see Ty Darlington goes to the mattresses for him all the time, tweeting about this and that. He told me when we talked, I think it was after Pro Day, how much he wrecked. He used the word he wrecked us in practice, and that he has a lot more left to go. But Devontae Bond, where are you going to go? You're going to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer along with Gerald McCoy.
With the 183rd pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Devontae Bond, linebacker, Oklahoma.
So he was a 6th-round selection. He was 183rd overall. And Jason Licht, who is the general manager for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, talked a little bit about what Bond brings.
Devontae, Sam linebacker, Oklahoma, heavy-handed, athletic, great kid. They're all really good kids. They're all athletic. I think they all got a really good chance of being Buccaneers for a while.
That reminded me of like a Bob Stoops press conference. I'd listen to it like you try and have signing day and you ask him about a kid and he just goes into, well, he's really good. They're all really good. Like, no, just tell me about the guy I'm asking you about, dude.
Always got to like the cliche, he's heavy-handed, good feet.
I don't know. I didn't watch him.
That's what they ought to say.
There's only so much you can say about a guy, though, before you eventually run out of attributes where you can talk about stuff.
I will say this, and if I'd had more time, I'd cut it up and we would have done a stupid kind of segment. But like listening to Sterling Shepard's press conferences with their general manager and their player personnel guy, like every question, somebody from New York is trying to trick him up to say something. Like one of the New York guys was like, so when you started day 2 and 8 other players were drafted before you took Sterling Shepard, are you telling me that you wouldn't have taken those 8 players? That you would have taken, that Sterling Shepard was the guy you wanted when day 2 started? And he was like, those are all good players. We wanted Sterling Shepard. I mean, it's just they do everything to try and trick.
Believe it either.
Well, I think they just want to write a headline like, that they bungled the draft somehow or something.
I don't understand questions. I mean, there are questions that you have to ask where you know the answer. Like sometimes
questions are things that you ask people when you want an answer.
Right, but what is that? What is that question? What answer do you expect him to say? Oh man, we really liked those 8 guys. I can't believe we had Sterling 9th, and then bam, 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 made it off the board. And I said, well, we got to settle for Sterling. No, like what is he supposed to say? I mean, sometimes there are allegations, there are things that come up where you have to ask the question to hear the answer, but that is not one of them.
Well, I mean, back to Devontae Bond. Obviously, he's a guy that has a lot of punch in the run game. He can do some things dropping back into coverage. I mean, I remember the Tennessee game. Yeah. He made some really good plays dropping back into coverage. I mean, he's a guy that, he
made a really good play at on the goal line in Stillwater as well in the first half.
Yeah, and we also mentioned he didn't play in the Texas game a lot. Last year he had the ankle.
That's why they lost.
That's the exact reason. Not the fact that they didn't run the quarterback.
No, it was because Devontae Bond was out.
So anyway, but you guys jump in here, but I mean, to me, he's a guy that has the highest ceiling out of all these guys that got drafted.
He could end up being the guy in 5 years that's still playing in the NFL out of all these guys that got drafted, and everybody's going to kind of be surprised. And I think it's just going to be one of those deals where everybody's going to say, it really shouldn't be that big of a surprise. I remember Ty Darlington after the pro day down in Norman told both of us, Carey, that he thought Devontae was just tapping into his potential, and I think that when you look at him, he's a lot bigger, I think, probably than people realize when you get up closer to him. I think he's definitely what they want Ricky DeBerry to be here next year, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, that's a good point. DeBerry and Bond do have that similar kind of big physical build, and the thing about Bond is he's one of those guys where if you knew nothing else before, you just put all of these draft picks out into a field and we're gonna pick a game. You watch Devontae Bond move around at that size, you might be tempted to say, I'm gonna take that guy first. I mean, he's somebody when you put him next to Eric Stryker. I mean, it's not even close, the comparison of physical build and body size and all that stuff. And he still runs a 4.7. I bet he could run a sub 4.7 on a better day. So Devontae Bond's a guy that he was a JUCO guy. He was playing football late. You could tell he's just kind of picking it up as he goes. He struggled with some injury problems. There is a lot that has not bubbled above the surface yet with him. So, and in Tampa Bay, that's a 4.3. It's not the 3.4 he's kind of been in Norman. It's a more probably natural fit for him. And there's not that much he has to worry about in order to get into the 2 deep. Jeremiah George, from Iowa State is the guy that really has to compete for a job. And Jeremiah George was a good player for Iowa State, but Devontae Bond should knock him out of the water athletically when he shows up.
I did not realize that he had this good of a game against Tennessee. 2 sacks, forced fumble, and 5 tackles. I mean, you put that tape on, and
against a running quarterback.
Yeah, I'm sure that's one of the tapes that they went back and looked at before they drafted him.
Well, and probably the story of the day, at least around here, was Eric Stryker sitting there waiting. Probably it did make it worse that they had camera crews there for ESPN. I saw those, and the first thing I thought was, oh man, get those out of there. This has tragedy written all over it. It ended up being a really sweet moment when he addressed his family toward the end of the draft, when you knew it. I think there were 5 picks left, and he kind of conceded. When they showed it. Yeah, he kind of conceded and gave the speech to his family. But Eric Stryker is already back to being Eric Stryker. It hasn't affected him that much. I want to play you this clip. He was on with the Buffalo Bills have a radio show. I don't know if it's a radio show or podcast, but this was from BuffaloBills.com. This is Eric Stryker's first conversation, first time people hearing him in Buffalo, and it's so Eric Stryker that you won't be surprised at all.
No problem, John. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Welcome to Buffalo. When did you get in? Just this afternoon, huh?
Yeah, I got in around 1 o'clock, and I had a really rude flight attendant. But the people in Buffalo are so kind, man. It just cleared my mind. She really was being mean to me for no reason, but I got here. The people in Buffalo are so nice, so kind.
Oh wow!
I'm just really happy to be here and ready to start.
Sounds like there's a story there, Eric. I'm not going to ask you what airline, but what happened on the flight? What happened?
Well, I know the lady was just, I got up and I asked, I used the bathroom.
Yeah.
But the restroom didn't have any napkins to dry your hands.
Yeah.
So I came out and she was like, "Sir, could you close the door?" And I was like, "Excuse me, ma'am, there's no napkins." "Sir, could you close the door?" Okay, so I closed the door. And obviously we done dealt with many flight attendants out, very nice. Her day just seemed to be going bad.
Yeah.
So then, after twice I asked her, did I close the door? She said, "Sir, could you have a seat?" And I was like, man, what the, so I don't want to go back and forth. I'm not the type of guy I'm just like, you know what, ma'am, I'm going to take the high road. I haven't, I took a seat. She gave me my napkins, and then, I had nowhere to throw the napkins away when I was done with them. And by the time the flight was getting ready to take off, and I got up just to throw the napkins away in the bathroom, "Excuse me, sir, you have to be in your seat." And I was like, what did I do to her? But that's all right. You run into all kind of people.
Yeah.
All kind of flight attendants. She must have just been having a bad day.
Yeah.
I didn't nothing against her. I was being very patient. I understood. But, it's all good.
That was the Buffalo Bills John Murphy show. I didn't have to listen to anything else. I mean, I can't imagine what he talked about for the next 20 minutes or however long it was, but that's typical Eric Stryker.
He hasn't changed.
I mean, you knew every Wednesday we were getting ready to, Tuesday, on defensive days during the season, we were getting ready to wait in there for Stryker for a good 15 to 20 minutes.
He was always the last person in.
Of talking. Because I don't want to say it was interviewing, but it was more talking.
Yeah, it really was just, what do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, sometimes you feel like these guys, they see the media, the press as, all right, well, we got to get through this. These are, it's more of like a standoffish. But he kind of saw, he saw everybody talk to his people. He had an opportunity to have a conversation, and everything he did, he was having fun. And even in that conversation, I'd love that he's just being himself. He had a story to tell, and he was going to tell it. That guy probably wanted to talk about Buffalo Bills football or whatever, and Eric didn't care. He had a flight attendant that he had a bad experience with, and he was going to open up the interview letting the guy know. I think that's just cool. I like that stuff.
Hopefully somebody prepared that guy to let him know, it's just not going to be your normal interview.
Well, I would also think, too, that there's been just so many bad things that have happened to that Buffalo franchise. They needed a little sunshine to come up there, brighten their day.
Yeah, but hopefully the media will enjoy him. I mean, I didn't. I'll be honest. I didn't really care to deal with Eric Stryker the first couple of years he was here because he was so defensive. It was like you couldn't really ask him anything, and he thought everything was an accusation. And he was just. I just got to the point where I was like, dude, I'm done with this. I've got better things to do. And then it actually turned for him. I think it took till this year to really turn to where he was like, Yeah, he admitted it too. He was like, yeah, I used to be kind of mean, and I kind of did take every question as an accusation, and I'm not doing that anymore. So he actually got kind of cool by the time he got out of here.
My favorite Eric Stryker story that I'll tell now that he's not at OU anymore. We were, back when I worked at Sooner Vision, we were doing a piece about the Sugar Bowl and the final sack fumble, and Eric was going to break it down for us. And we couldn't end up using the whole thing because as he was diagramming out the play, he would draw up in the stands, he drew frowny faces, and he said, well, that's A.J. McCarron's girlfriend. That's A.J. McCarron's mom, and they're really sad because I just sacked him. And I thought, that stuff like that is just, he's having fun. He wasn't trying to be mean. He's just a fun guy.
And the university wouldn't let you run it?
No, they did not.
That's not surprising. I just looked up on Stryker. He met with the media today to kick off their rookie training camp up in Buffalo, and I've seen almost every person has said that they're unanimously pulling for Eric to make the team and to have a good career up there. But I did see that he's already struck a chord with the Buffalo media, saying that they asked him about buffalo wings, and he said that he's had a chicken wing before. How much better could a buffalo wing be? And so the headline now in one of the Buffalo newspapers is out of Overland Park, Buffalo Bills rookie Eric Stryker said the wrong thing about buffalo wings.
Well, guys, let's get into the other free agent signings. I know Joe is a Broncos fan. He's very happy to see a couple of Sooners landing as free agents there. But I guess, Joe, you want to just run it down for everybody.
Yeah, you already have Eric Stryker. We've already talked about going to the Buffalo Bills, and Rex Ryan should be a pretty good fit for him. Dominique Alexander just signed a deal with the Browns. Then you have Frank Shannon and Duron Neal to my aforementioned Denver Broncos. Frank Shannon being reunited, by the way, with Corey Nelson in Denver, which should be cool for OU fans to see. And actually, there's an inside linebacker position open with Danny Trevathan gone that Corey Nelson might compete for, and who knows, Frank Shannon might get in that race as well. Then you also have guys like Ty Darlington and Neela Cossetati are going to the Titans and Redskins respectively, but now we're not exactly sure if those are locked-in undrafted free agent deals, or if that's more like a rookie camp tryout situation. But I believe that's it. If I've missed somebody, let me know.
Dominic Alexander, Cleveland. Or did you say him?
I think I might have snuck that one in there, but it's all right to say it again. Because Dom was a guy that, we can talk about him first. I think that's the guy that when he left early, so he's in that Tony Jefferson situation now, right? Where that cannot feel good. That has to put something in your stomach that no matter what you have now, you have that chip on your shoulder. So when you leave early and you don't get drafted, I feel like Dom, what more motivation can you need? Especially since didn't it feel like to you all that he didn't have that much support coming from OU fans his way for his decision?
No, I think that's a situation that I think people, unless they truly understand maybe what was going behind closed doors with Dom, I even question, why would you come out if you weren't going to get drafted? I don't know if there were people in his ear saying that they felt like he was going to get drafted, but I don't know. That's a tough situation to have to now go into, because you're now you're working pretty much uphill to make a team and to make a paycheck at the very least.
And I like your point there, because that's just a human nature problem that we can all suffer sometimes, is what are those around us telling us? Sometimes it's not the right thing. Sometimes it's just what we want to hear. I remember when Tony left for the draft early, he was telling people that he was getting second, third round grades, and he went undrafted. Yeah. And I know Eric Stryker was thinking something similar, and he went undrafted. And so if you can imagine someone like Eric Stryker and the career they had and where they thought they were going to get drafted, and then they go undrafted, and then Dominique Alexander, who was a Big 12 freshman, a defensive freshman of the year, had 200, 300 tackles. He didn't get drafted either. So that should be a wake-up sign to everybody to do their due diligence, make sure it's not just those around you, not just yes men telling you your draft status. You got to get all opinions.
Well, I think for Alexander, I think it's hard for people to understand, because a lot of kids don't look at getting drafted as the end goal. They just look at, they know they're going to get a free agency contract. They're going to get an opportunity to make it in the NFL. If they don't make it, so be it. They'll move on and do something else. But there's just a certain segment of kids, you run into more and more each year, that feel that way, and that's why you see the numbers increasing to what they are. It was a record year for underclassmen declaring this year. They'll probably be setting a record again for years to come with more and more kids coming out, because they're just like, okay, well, if I'm not gonna get drafted, I'll still be able to have my chance at the NFL, and that's all some kids are looking for.
But that chance will be there next year. And I know what you're saying, Karen, you're exactly right. But to me, to those kids, I just have to feel like, unless you're a first, second round guy, you have an amazing opportunity to finish your career, to get a college education, which on average can yield more than $1 million for a person's life versus someone who doesn't get a college education. So finish that, get your degree, then go there. If you're going to be an undrafted free agent anyway, the second contract's likely not there anyway. So it doesn't matter if you're 21, 22 when you get the first one. So to me, it's what value are you getting, even monetarily. We don't have to talk about the moral issues of it, but monetarily, to maximize your potential. The degree is still worth something, so maybe make sure you get that if you're not sure if you're going to be an early round pick. I don't know. I'll get off my soapbox now. I'm sorry.
I would have jetted. Get out of school. Don't have to worry about it anymore. Don't have to worry about the
here's the thing.
day-to-day.
They've got the deal now where you can come back to school and finish your degree.
That's
very easily too.
Yeah.
JD did that, and that is a good program they have. But how many guys? I mean, it makes it that much harder though when you put that break in it to come back. I don't know. I mean, Tony Jeffersons don't grow on trees, right? I mean, most undrafted free agents don't get that second
That's the
contract.
one thing that I don't think that maybe people don't understand is it's not normal what Tony or the way that he went about going into the league.
Not at all.
That doesn't happen for a lot of people.
And he's really not secure as it stands right now. I mean
is he still under contract with Arizona? Or did they re-sign him? Because I thought his deal was over.
I think he signed a second contract.
He did re-sign, okay.
I mean, it's the NFL. Those things aren't worth the paper they're written on. But I mean, you're right. When you're an undrafted free agent, even if you're Tony Jefferson and you do well and you make a statement, if you remember the next year they drafted the first round safety out of Washington State. You're always fighting for your job if you're an undrafted free agent. Always.
And if you don't think that as long as the general manager is in place that signed that guy, that first rounder that plays your position, they want him to take your job because they want to look good. So, all right. I think, there's, of all these guys that sign free agents contracts, I mean, I can't really sit here and say, oh, yeah, that guy's going to make it. I mean, I think that tells you probably how hard it is to make it.
Striker's the guy that you think maybe. Because, with him, you just have to me, it's just he needed a person. He didn't need a system. He didn't need a team. He needed one person to believe in him. And Rex Ryan is that guy. That's somebody who would believe in Eric Striker. So if anybody's going to do it to me, that's the guy.
And they snapped him up pretty fast. So
that was like immediate after the
you could tell as soon as the draft ended that they'd.
Yeah, I read that they called him 5 times immediately when the draft was over.
Wow. All right. Well, there is one other football thing related thing that happened recently. Football related thing that happened recently, and that was the mayor of Houston caused a little bit of a stir, especially in the OU world. Sylvester Turner is the guy's name. And I find this hilarious because it was a Q&A with UH Magazine. He's a University of Houston grad. And they were basically, doing the PR piece, which, we love the university, it's so great, and this and that. And it ended up that they started talking about athletics. And Sylvester Turner decided to talk a little trash. But what I love about this is, he was just like, oh, this is just the school magazine. Nobody's going to read this. Not realizing, everything is online.
And he didn't realize it's May 6th and people have nothing to talk about.
Yes. So he said, here was the quote that he gave, UH Magazine. I'm sure he didn't think would get any further than boosters and alums for Houston. He said, quote, "For the Cougars to start out the season against a powerhouse like Oklahoma speaks to how far the program has come. We'll win that one easily, then move on. In this first game, I think we'll win by 14 or possibly 21 points. Then we'll look for some stiffer competition."
I love that. Can I just say, I don't understand why people get upset. If I'm that mayor, if I'm the mayor of Houston, I'm not affiliated with the team. I'm not on the team. I'm not a coach. I am not rushing the passer. I'm not throwing a single pass. I'm not catching anything. I am the mayor of Houston. So if somebody asks me that question, and my alma mater is the University of Houston, we're winning by 50. We're winning by 60. Sports are supposed to be fun.
It might be cool, though, but, I mean, the game is being played in Houston. If it were like they were coming to Oklahoma, I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. But you're going to his city. He's hosting the game. He's also bragging in here about how they're going to fill up the stadium, which we all know they can't do that on their own. And it's going to be mostly OU fans. OU fans are going to be a C in NRG. So,
but I kind of like that though. It's almost like it's like that. To me, I like this kind of stuff. It's almost like professional wrestling, right? He's kind of amping up his side. He's getting the OU people riled up. And
oh no, I think it's fantastic for us to talk about.
I love this stuff.
I think it's stupid though, for not that he's affiliated with the team, but it's the coaches love that. If you think that that's not going to be hanging up in the locker rooms all summer,
oh my gosh, it'll probably take on a life of its own. Just the way that they inflate things through the media. In the OU locker room, usually it will be.
They're known to maybe make something up every once in a while.
Yeah, it'll become. Well, they said that they were coming down. It'll be Mayfield or somebody that says, "Well, I heard they were going to shut us out this year." They're like, what? I don't think anybody said that. I like how he says, "Move on to bigger and better things." Too. Looking at their schedule right now, after the Oklahoma opener, they welcome Lamar, and then at Cincinnati, at Texas State. UConn, at Navy, Tulsa. I mean, I don't know. I hope he has a good weekend.
Do we need to go run over to Lynn Miller's office, the mayor of Norman, and see what she has to say about the situation? I mean,
let's do it.
I get a rebuttal.
The reason that I think I love this story because people are going to blow this out. This is going to be a big deal, and I think that is just crazy and awesome. And I really think, actually, you know what? I think we should go talk to Lynn Miller and get her prediction for the game 4 months from now and see what she says. And let's just get an old-fashioned mayor fight going.
If she wanted to be real badass, she'd say, "I can't worry about college football right now with the Thunder playing." Take a shot at the Rockets.
I like it.
She couldn't do that, though, be the mayor of Norman.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Mick Cornett could do that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right. Well, I'm sure that will be touched on as well as we move forward. But we had some bad news come out yesterday as Akolda Manyang had been charged with aggravated assault, felony assault, because he punched an offensive lineman. I don't know. The wisdom of this thing knows no bounds. First off, you're punching people. Second off, it's a 6'5", 300-pound dude that you're punching. So Tyler Evans, former Oklahoma offensive lineman, one of my favorite dudes of all time. We called him. I remember I did an interview one time with him. I think it was Lane Johnson was the one that told me this. That they called him. Who's the guy on the Goonies? The Baby Ruth guy.
No, not Chunk.
Chunk. Yeah, Chunk. Yeah. Or Chunk was
the kid. Yeah. What was
somebody was Chunk?
Oh, I feel
they had
so
a
bad.
duo. Like Lane Johnson said that one guy was Chunk and the other was
the guy with the Superman shirt, and the one eye, right?
It's not Lurch. It's
Sloth.
Sloth.
Yeah.
Chunk and Sloth. And so we had this discussion of who would be Chunk and who would be Sloth. And Lane Johnson got that guy, but it was hilarious. So they were fantastic. But he was always great. He laughs all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he laughed. I'll say I've got a Newsnight interview that I chopped up a little bit, and he's talking about getting punched, and he's like trying to turn it funny, and he's laughing as he's talking. As he's laughing, he's missing his two front teeth because Akolda Manyang knocked him out. But here is Tyler Evans being interviewed by Adriana Ivashinsky from Channel 9, KWTV here in Oklahoma City.
He's getting handsy, told him to back off a few times. He kept on coming back. I got a 7-foot dunk on my face. I didn't know my teeth were knocked out. I took a few steps, pulled my teeth out, and I just pulled my permanent retainer out too. I was just like, yes, good guys finish last.
And he was trying to, I guess, defend some women that Manyang was being a little too aggressive with. And this was after hours, so this is everybody trying to leave Campus Corner, which is always when the bad stuff happens.
It can be a violent place down there at 2 a.m.
But Joe Manyang, OU basketball, released a statement about his status as well.
Yeah, he's suspended indefinitely from the team. That is per an OU release. This is just me from my own reporting. I do not expect him to be back on the team. I don't think that will happen. I think Akolda Manyang's days as an Oklahoma Sooner are done. this incident, that the Tyler Evans is hilarious, by the way, but that incident, it might not be, there might be other things behind the scene. That this is, if you think that this is the sole reason, and that OU's being whatever you want to call it, that might not be the case. I wouldn't rush to any judgments here about what's going on.
And what an odd ending to a career that really just never got started. I mean, I think that
it's so tragic. I mean, his brother just died. It's just
he misses the entire NCAA tournament run because of it. It's been a rough 2-3 months, I guess, for Akolda Manyang, and I definitely don't think that he on the court was the guy that they thought he was going to be when they brought him in from Indian Hills.
Yeah, from an on-the-court perspective, I mean, by the end of the year, it was pretty clear that Jamuni McNeese had seized that opportunity to jump him on the depth chart. So next year, he wasn't going to be a starter anyway. He was going to be looking behind Latin and McNeese and stuff. But it's still, you felt like when he signed that he was going to be a real piece for this team. He didn't feel like, one of those Oleg Restov from the 90s, just a 7-footer just to put on the bench and look good in warm-ups. He looked like he was going to even be better than his cousin.
Oleg didn't look good in warm-ups.
That's true. Oleg looked good when he was getting the chant. But beside the point, he's somebody that you felt like was, you get a 7-footer with that kind of athleticism, and then it just never materializes. He doesn't quite seize the role that he needs to, and then you have this off the field stuff and his brother.
Even the discipline, from what I'd heard, I'm sure you guys had heard the same thing. The discipline on the court was not there either, because they would go over things with him in practice all the time. We need you to play like this. He'd get into the game and he'd just start shooting, and it's just like, you can't, and they'd have to yank him, and you cannot play if that's all you're going to do. So
very James Harden of him.
Yeah, at least James Harden can play.
Yeah, that's true. At least he can make some shots outside.
So it's unfortunate if he never takes another step on a court for Oklahoma. Probably, well, in the Lon Kruger era, that would be the biggest knucklehead of his tenure.
I think I was trying to think about it after they released the statement suspending him. Other than maybe quote unquote Nick Thompson, I think somebody had tweeted to me. I think he got suspended for a couple games. Mm-hmm. This is the first major suspension in Kruger's 5-6 years,
and this is really the first real knuckleheaded play or behavior by anybody since the Jeff Capel days.
That is not an accident. Lon Kruger, when he goes through the recruiting process, is very, very different than a lot of other Division I basketball coaches. He makes sure. And I'm not saying this as an OU reporter, I promise. I'm saying this as someone who knows the process. He does not offer risks. He does. If you have a red flag, he doesn't want it. If you don't have the attitude to fit in on or off the court, he doesn't want it. If you have your hand out, he especially doesn't want it. So they just offered the number one player in the country for 2017 just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, just after they vetted him.
Right. That's a great way to put it. It's almost like a VP process. They vet him. They vet their players before they offer him to make sure that they don't have these kind of troubles. And off the top of my head, the only other person I can think of that even had troubles in their career down the line was Jalon Hornbeek after he transferred to Monmouth.
Yeah, he got in trouble.
He got in trouble there, but that was it. I mean, this is Manyang is the big knucklehead of the Kruger era so far.
I guess there is one other arrest, and it may be one of my favorite. I guess favorite. I don't know if you can say that, but it's one of my favorite arrests of the maybe in the history of Oklahoma athletics was Isaiah Cousins running from the police.
That's true. I forgot about that.
At Sugars, wasn't it? Or in between Sugars and Fuzzies?
Yeah, dove into a bush.
That's just college, I think. Who hasn't
That's a
done
guy
that?
that knows that Lon Kruger doesn't want anybody getting in trouble.
No comment.
So awesome.
Were you hiding in the bush with him, Joe?
Not on that particular night, but my house may be within walking distance of Campus Corner, and I may have taken a few detours on my way home before.
Who hasn't?
Right,
it's part of the college experience.
Sure. All right. Last thing, we're running out of time here. Last thing, let's hit on the coaching moves made by Lon Kruger. New hire, Joe. I know a guy that really was kind of a name I hadn't really seen mentioned a whole lot. But I think it was Goodman, and then maybe the first to release it. But obviously Kevin Kruger, a guy that was brought in to replace the departing coaches Lou Hill and Steve Henson.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Kruger, obviously the son of Lon Kruger, comes in. He's very familiar with that situation. He was a graduate assistant there before. I mean, it's his dad, obviously. What more do I need to say? He went to Northern Arizona, had some coaching experience there before coming back. I know some people worry about, nepotism. He's just hiring his son. Those people can just, I don't know.
Tell him to shove it, Joe.
Shove it. Just shove it. I mean, it's his son. People love him in that building.
Shut your mouth.
I'm sorry? What did
You're
you
just
say?
coming off stupid.
We're here to mess stuff up. So, Kevin Kruger is someone who people like in that building. People are talking him up. He knows the system.
Cute kids.
He's adorable. Come on. So it'll be nice to have the whole Kruger family there. They think his young energy can bring something to the recruiting trail, which they'll need because losing Lou Hill is a big deal. Lou Hill was great out on the recruiting trail, and so was Steve Henson. Let's not cut him short. They were both great on the recruiting trail. So Lon Kruger and Kevin Kruger, excuse me, that's going to happen a lot. We'll have the work cut out. And they just got Carlin Hartman from Rice. That was a name a little off the radar. I didn't hear that one coming. I'd heard Hollis Price from the Houston area was a possibility. But they went with Carlin Hartman. And to be honest, I don't know a whole lot yet about Hartman, but this is another person that they think really, really, really want to focus on the recruiting trail and making sure that they can identify people that work with their system.
So Joe's message for all those with nepotism out there?
Damn you people. Go back to your shanties.
Find something else to complain about.
I would trust Lon Kruger hiring anybody. Name the baddest person in the world. I would trust him if
he could turn him around.
Yeah, he could sign up Hitler, and I'd be like,
okay.
I'd be like, well, I mean,
I don't think he would get through the regents.
I think Lon knows what he's doing, though. I mean, he could maybe come in and just be a ball guy. No, but I just trust Lon Kruger enough with this program and what he's done in the last 6 years that he could hire literally anybody.
That's a great point. What nerve do Oklahoma basketball fans have? No one goes to games for 5 years. The place is empty. You're on probation. You're losing 20 plus games a year. Lon Kruger comes in, brings in a stable program you can be proud of. Students are filling the seats. There's energy. You're in the Final Four. You have a National Player of the Year winner. Oh, but he hired his son. That's nepotism.
Yeah,
come on.
I don't understand it. I think the program's fine, people. Yeah, the program's going to be fine. It will be interesting though to see, I guess, interact with him. I don't really know what to expect with either Kevin Kruger. I remember cheering for Kevin Kruger and UNLV when they went on that Sweet 16 run. I think I was a sophomore in college, maybe.
And he was a good player for them too. Yeah,
he kind of carried them there. I think in the second round game. I distinctly remember watching that game, and that's always kind of been my.
Gotta remember, he did come from good genes.
Yeah,
I mean, Lon was a player, man.
I forget how good he was.
Did you see? Were you there when Lon threw out the baseball this year?
I
mean, he still
I've
can
seen
hum
him.
it. He can still hum it.
He's got good form too. Still,
yeah.
There's something about throwing a baseball where it always outs you. People that throw a baseball, we can see right away whether or not you can. I think you can
whether you're an athlete or not.
Yeah, you can kind of fake shooting a basketball.
I don't know. Did you see Mason Rudolph throw
Mason Rudolph's just pretty bad.
No. He can throw a football though.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this show. It's been a little bit longer, but hey, hopefully you'll be entertained throughout if you're on a treadmill, driving to work, on your commute, whatever. We are working feverishly to get everything put up through iTunes. I've done a lot of research on that kind of stuff this week, so we will be having things available on iTunes so you can download it. You can download it through SoundCloud, and we will make sure to get all those links to you and let you guys know when the next evolution of the podcast, including a name, comes about. But want to thank Eddie Radosevich, as always, for being a part of the show. Yep. Joe Duvall doing a great job as well. I'm Carey Murdoch, and we'll see you guys next time here on the SoonerScoop.com podcast.